Heavenly Father, as we come to you today, we come to you thankful for all these students and families and staff that are here. We're thankful for being able to celebrate. We're thankful for being able to recognize hard work and things that have been earned. Lord, as we deliberate tonight, we ask for your guidance and your wisdom. We pray that you'll continue to keep Levy County and our students and our staff safe. And we ask that you'll just help them have a successful year. We ask all these things as we come to you, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Go dress the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. In the pledge there, I had a Joe Biden moment. I looked away from what I was supposed to do. Saw something over here in the side of my eye, so if y'all saw that, I apologize. We will now move into the adoption of the agenda, but before we adopt it, we do need to make a change. We're going to flip-flop D and E. So we're going to do the perfect score certificates before the Chieflin Middle High School recognition.
We have some students who are coming from volleyball to give them a chance to be here for the recognition. So
I think McClellan just couldn't get them here on time.
I make the motion to approve. A second.
We have a motion to adopt the agenda. We've heard a second. And are there any more discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. At this time, we'd like to welcome all these visitors here tonight. It's good to have you with us. Is there anybody here that has any non-agenda item that they'd like to bring before the board? Any emails or anything?
no, sir.
All right, Mr. Superintendent, let us begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, it's our opportunity to kind of recognize some outstanding students, and we're blessed to be represented throughout the county. One of the things that we know, so as we work hard, and our kids have worked hard in the classroom, and our teachers have worked hard, and our parents have worked hard with them, and we just wanted the opportunity to celebrate them. So all these students that are on this list tonight are students that earned perfect scores. So meaning they did not miss a single question on a statewide EOC or a FSA assessment, whether it be mathematics, science, or whatnot. So, and what we're going to do tonight is we're going to recognize them starting individually, and then we'll take a picture with them with their board member, and then at the end, we'll, if we will, with your help, we'll take a break and we'll take all the students out there by the sign and take a group picture of all of our Levy County students. So one of the things that's kind of been humbling for me to see is, as we know, as we go through and the hard work and the sacrifice and how much it means to students to earn and to see what their hard work coming to fruition. So the first student, so we had one student at Bronson Middle High School who's moved on, but I want to make sure that they get recognized, and we're going to send on their certificate to them. And it was Riley Lighty in the 8th grade FSA math. So Riley has moved out of state, but we're going to make sure that Riley gets their certificate, and I want to make sure that we did recognize them from Bronson Middle High School. So at this time, he is here, so fresh off a cross country. So we have Cedar Key represented by Micah DeHaven. And Micah earned a perfect score in the 8th grade state science FSA. Ms. Boyle, if you'll come on up here. So take a picture. Congratulations to Micah. And if you don't know, Micah also represented in the Farm Bureau speech contest recently. And Miss Kathy come up. So sorry.
We're gonna get out. I don't know if we can get out of the way. I think I got right in there.
And Micah, we know you owe all your science, so it's to your dad, right? So just kidding. So Ms. DeHaven is one of our fine teachers in Cedar Key, so we appreciate it. So next.
May I interject?
So, yes, ma'am.
Micah scored a perfect score in 5th grade science.
Yes, he did.
8th grade science, So we're looking for a trifecta.
Biology EOC coming up this year.
Yeah.
Biology EOC coming up this year. So next we have Chieflin Middle High School. So, and the first young man, so not only does he excel in the classroom, but I believe he excels in FFA. And this one is near and dear to my heart. So he got a perfect score on the Civics EOC, and that is J.R. Hudson.
Proud of this little boy right here.
Stand 3 inches over.
Thank you, congratulations.
Next, not to be outdone, so is also in the same line. So Miss Jolene Watkins got a perfect score in the Civics EOC, and I believe also was a state champion in FFA this year also. So, so she and JR. Now, the next young man, so this would seem really difficult to me. So he got a perfect score. So Mr. Coburn Hardy in the U.S. History EOC. So congratulations to Coburn. And we appreciate what his mama does at Chieflin L too. So next is a young man from Whispering Winds. And this young man received a perfect score in the 3rd grade math FSA, Mr. Hunter Davis.
Oh, that's awful. That's awful.
Next young man is representing Williston Middle High School. So, and this young man, so got a perfect score in the Biology 1 EOC, Mr. Gabriel Saradka. I don't know how many times I was practicing it. Good job. Next is Williston Elementary. So, and first in that is a young lady, 3rd grade, perfect score in 3rd grade math, FSA, Chloe Ball. And Miss Hamlin here, so who was your principal last year? She's you got to remember, I'm a politician. If you have a camera up like there, I'm going to stand there. I'm teasing. So next is a young man. So for 3rd grade, perfect score in 3rd grade math FSA. So from Williston Elementary, Mitchell Schrader. Congratulations, sir. Excellent. Excellent work. And the final young lady from Williston Elementary, with a perfect score in math FSA also. And I think it's probably all that counting change. I hear they have a peanut stand and a lemonade stands and everything during the summertime, is Miss Mabry Whitehurst. Moving on to Chieflin Elementary for 3rd grade, perfect score, math FSA, Mr. Aiden Wilson. Congratulations, sir. For those of you in the new room, so we're happy to have our new Chieflin Elementary principal, Miss Fagan. So stand up there. Last but not least, so in 3rd grade, math FSA, perfect score from the Bronson Elementary, so Hunter Thompson. Let Mr. Asman
Get in here, hold on. We can't have him being short of the He's like a fruit. Proud of him. You know what you can't spell without being the best? Best. Oh. Back 2 weeks. The boy he's head. See that man right here? Tell him, you can't spell best without being yes.
So, as you can see, we like to brag a little bit, and it's good fun, and it's breeds good competition. And we want our students to be successful, and we know that each of you here that invest your time in them, and the teachers that invest in the time are the reason that we've been able to do those things. So at this time, Mr. Chair, if we could take 5 minutes, we'll take everybody out with your plaques, and we're going to go out there by the school board sign and take a big picture. And we sure appreciate you all, appreciate how hard you work.
Thank you.
We're going to take 5 minutes. The Chieflin Middle High School recognition for the moment, and call on Miss Lake to come address us for our public hearing. Miss Lake.
This was not my idea. I apologize. I'll make it really quick.
This will be a government.
She has just lied to you. This is not quick. There's going to be notes afterwards.
Goodness. Usually have to talk back to me during
This is my favorite part of the meeting.
That's why I just
Thank you.
totally pandering to
Now, if they walk in before you get started, they'll go back.
That would be great. All right. So go to the next slide. So tonight, we are here to adopt the final millage rate and final budget for this fiscal year. Tonight, we're going to review the changes or differences in what was advertised for our tentative budget and what is being proposed today. So most of our discussion will be a review of what we've already discussed in early August when we adopted the tentative millage and budget. And so this is the second and final of our 2 public hearings. This means anyone attending can ask questions at any time throughout this process. So we'll start with trim. Truth and millage is the first thing we're going to talk about. The final rate that's being proposed is 3.6270. This looks the same as the tentative. Our RLE, our required local effort, is the 3.627, and this number is set by Florida Department of Education to match prior year tax collections. So as we discussed during our tentative budget adoption, the RLE is lower this year when compared to last year, but it's higher than the rollback rate. So we had to advertise for a tax increase. The rollback rate is the rate that would generate the same amount of property tax revenues as approved for the prior year. When the tax base increases, like this year, the rollback rate is less than the prior year's rate. This just means the tax value has increased. So with this RLE, we would receive more money in local taxes when compared to last year, but the local tax rate did not increase. So what I'm proposing, or what we're proposing tonight, is a final millage rate of 3.6270.
You heard Ms. Lake's recommendation. I will now accept the motion.
I move to approve the final millage rate of 3.6270.
Second.
A motion second. Does anyone have any questions or comments from
Can I just ask a quick question? The difference between the tentative and the final budget's about $1 million difference. Is that?
688,000, and that, we'll get to that next, and that
Okay.
has to do with like finalizing our fund balance.
Okay.
And some of our federal grants.
Sorry, I'm a step ahead.
That's okay.
Not relative, not germane. I apologize.
Just overachieve.
I call for the previous question.
Oh, previous question has been called for. We're going to do away with that because y'all are obviously ready to vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll move on to discuss the budget. The advertised budget or tentative budget was a little over 115 million.
Can you see that?
The final budget and the budget being proposed tonight is a little over 16 million, which is a net increase of $688,413.21 to be exact. So most of these changes are due to finalizing our fund balances, updating our federal budget, and recognizing some changes in accounting procedures. So we'll review the changes by fund. So this little packet. So this is just a summary or a breakdown of each fund and the changes within each fund. First page or second page would be the general fund changes. Now, revenues and expenditures must match. So the majority of the changes coming from here is in our final fund balance change. So we had an additional $33,000 in revenue. And then if you come down, you see we had some estimated growth in expenditures for instruction. That's mostly because of ELA adoption, full adoption. I finally was able to put a figure on that, and that's representing that. So we have our total expenditures increased by $607,000, and so our fund balance decreased by $573,000, leaving us with a net of a little over $33,000 change to the general fund. Next is the special revenue fund. So this is where we would have food service. This is where we have all of our federal title funding, and due to a change in accounting procedures, this is now where you will see internal school funds. So when you look up at the change in the revenues and you see the $1.1 million change, that's recognizing the revenue that we have, because it has to be budgeted for our school internal accounts. That's the majority of the change you see here. And then when you go down to expenditures, you see some changes, some minor changes. Those are some federal budgets that came through that we were able to finally finalize. They take a little bit longer. And the debt service, community services amount of a little over $1,050,000. That is, again, the internal accounts. And then you see our fund balance increased by $571,000, and again, the fund balance is attributed to the internal accounts. That's why that's such a huge change for our federal. Next is debt service. The only change we had there was in our SBE bonds. When we're building a school, we don't have the recovery of the SBE bonds. Next page is capital projects. That just came from finalizing the fund balance. We had a final expenditure payout and it reduced our fund balance. And finally, internal service fund, which is our self-insurance. It's not the same as the internal schools fund I was just talking about. And the only change we had here was the change in our fund balance. And I recognize the transfer, a budget of a transfer, possible transfer into this account. Does anybody have any?
It's like where you just, the 853,000, you just, is that a timing issue, the way you just
Yes.
stated that? Okay.
Yeah, so I remember our books are kept open for like 45 days
Right.
past, and so that was a finalizing of the fund balance and finalizing the funds, some final expenditures going out for our special facilities.
Okay.
Any other questions? I now accept the motion to approve the final budget. You're not ready? You're just getting warmed up?
I have an audience.
You told these fellas you'd be fast.
Well, they want to know how we're paying for their education.
Yes, they do.
So quickly, before we get into revenue and expenditure sources, we need to talk about the ending fund balance. I'm just gonna cut it short, I can. So what you're looking at here is our beginning fund balance for last year where we ended. You see our revenues, expenditures for this year, and you see our ending fund balance. The 20% is not our financial condition ratio, that is our fund balance ratio. I've broken down our fund balance to show the 5% board policy holdback, restricted, assigned, and unassigned portions that make up the fund balance. The financial condition ratio only looks at the assigned and unassigned, and with that, we're a little over 19%. The unassigned is the portion of that fund balance that we use to address budget shortfalls, such as the ELA adoption, and you'll see the impact of some of that in a minute, emergencies and unforeseen events. This is our estimated fund balance based on the budget I'm presenting to you tonight. So you'll see the starting fund balance for this year, estimated revenues, expenditures, and we're estimating an ending fund balance of a little over 7.8 million, which is a 17% fund balance ratio. And I break down again the 5% holdback, restricted, assigned, and unassigned, and you see the majority of the hits to our unassigned to cover some of those differences in the budget, but it still leaves us with a 6.5% just in the unassigned.
So that's where what you just mentioned with the block before the fund balance, that's where it hit right there.
That's
So
where it will always, it'll hit in your unassigned. It hit a little bit in the assigned. Some of the assignments, like schoolhouse budgets sit in the assigned. So as they erode that, that's where that line gets reduced. So we estimated how much impact was going to occur to the assigned and unassigned. Again, these are fund balance percents to the right, not financial condition ratio. That would include unassigned, assigned, and the 5% holdback to get that financial condition ratio.
Okay, yes, ma'am, thank you.
All right, let's talk about revenue sources and expenditures. So quickly, I just did a graph of the resources of our revenue for all funds, which is where the money comes from. Quickly, you see almost 30% is coming from state sources. Our largest revenue source is the FEFP, which accounts for 99% of that source, and 74% of our total resources. The local sources are 10%, and our property taxes comprise about 91% of that resource. And then from there, it goes with the capital outlay and fund balance being our next largest. The capital outlay is so huge right now because 2 years of the special facilities revenue is being counted in that. Does anybody have any questions? And this is just the resources by fund. So again, this is all funds, but 48% of this is coming from the general fund and 32% from capital projects, and then down from there. So we looked at the fund balance in the general by fund, and 47% of our total fund balance is coming from the general fund, 29% from capital projects. And then when you break down the general fund balance, you see 45% of that is unassigned. Now let's talk about a little bit about where the money goes. So I broke up the expenditures by two ways, by object and by function. So just looking at object, 46% is spent between employee salaries and benefits. So 46% of our total budget goes to support salaries and benefits. Of that employee salaries, 49% is classroom teachers. Next largest would be other support personnel. Your ESP is not including aides. And you can review the graph later and kind of see how that all breaks down. And I do this as a test. Obviously, we kind of know common sense where most of our money should be going, so it's always nice to look at it this way just to make sure the budget is shaping up the way you think it should. All right, let's look at it by function. So by function tells us that 34% is going to student instruction, so that's basic student instruction. 23% is going to construction, and then you follow up with the other support to student instruction. General support services includes food service, school admin, and district level admin. When you look deeper at that, you see that the majority of that is food service followed by school level admin. And then finally, you can look through these. I think you all have a handout of this. But I went and I broke each of these functions down to kind of show you how it's breaking out. So for student instruction, for example, 81% of that expenditure goes to salaries and benefits, which makes sense, teachers. 75% of that is for basic K-12, followed by 18% for ESD or exceptional students. So I won't go through each one of these with you for time, but you have a copy of that, and that kind of lets you see how those functions break down and where those monies are going. I don't think there was anything that really, we'll go to the last screen with the general fund. So when you pull out the general fund, because we've been talking about all funds, and all funds are more restrictive than the general fund, we see that 57% of general fund dollars are going to support student instruction. And then of course followed up with 13% for general support services, heavy on the school admin at that point. And then goes into student instruction and support services. This is where you would have your guidance counselors, reading coaches, and those types of employees. Anybody have any questions?
I think it's a very detailed graph and laid out wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I make the motion to approve the final budget and adopt the resolution 22-04 to adopt the final budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion. Great job as always.
That was a record.
You were awesome. You know why? Exactly.
No, it's because we have Chieflin High School students here.
Oh, it's good. Now the question and answer time. Did y'all understand all that?
Yes.
Good job. Good listener.
All right. We're going to turn it over to our superintendent at this
For
point.
time's sake, we may have some girls still coming, so I think the JV volleyball game went past 3 sets, so they're still playing. So to help these good folks, so I know they probably eyeballs are swimming, so we're going to go ahead and recognize. So Mr. McClellan, if you'll come on up. So it's not every day that you get an email from an employee talking about heroic acts that students do. And I know that we've recognized bus drivers for helping with choking children and different things like that. But when I got this email, I reached out to Mr. McClellan and wanted to bring these students to kind of share to the board what they did to step in a time of need for another classmate, and just really thank them for going above and beyond and being lifesavers.
So, not sure if you know the whole story. In 7th period, class was getting out, bell was ringing at the end of the day, and a young lady that's on the volleyball team had a seizure. Fortunately, these 2 young men here, Dakota Fisher and James Clemens, among 3 other ladies, were there, and Dakota actually called her. She was falling. He ran in and called her. And then James went, he had the wherewithal to go get our trainer. So James goes and gets the trainer, and the other ladies, they also played a part. But, you know, for us as educators, you know, perfect scores and touchdowns and all that's great, but having compassion and wherewithal to jump right in, I mean, they acted just like a trained adult would. So, you know, to me as their principal, that's what I'm most proud about, is them seeing an issue, seeing, you know, someone, their classmate in need, and no one directed them. They just all did this, and it was almost like it was scripted how they did it. So, I mean, the young lady could have fell and, you know, hurt her head and all these different things, but these 2 gentlemen, you know, they really stepped into action, and I couldn't be more proud of both of them.
We have some certificates for them. So, and the first young man, so how many touchdowns did you have Friday?
Yes.
Good thing you weren't playing in the early 90s.
225 yards. So,
How many? 225.
8 carries. So,
8 carries, 225.
as we know, we like to brag a little bit around here. So, but this life-saving award is awarded to Dakota Fisher for successful effort in saving a human life, which involves exceptional courage and performance. Chieflin Middle High School, dated today, September 9th, 2021. So, next young man. So once again, this life-saving award is awarded to James Clemens. And you paved the way for those 225 yards, right? We appreciate y'all. So
I'd like to say congratulations to the parents too, because you raised fine young men to react that way. So thank you to the parents.
That's pretty cool. Y'all are more than welcome to stay.
Oh, no. Y'all have a good day.
Great job. Who y'all play this week?
West Oaks on the road.
Good job.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Congratulations.
Thank y'all.
Hey, remember who's blocking for you now. You didn't get them by yourself.
Come on out.
See you later.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right, Mr. Lott.
Maybe get all this over in one meeting. All this Chieflin stuff.
Good evening. We have a couple of things. The first thing is we would ask for you to approve a change in our contract for our Chieflin Middle High School project, special facilities project. To make a long story short, basically, in a typical construction project like that, you start and then you keep working and you finish. Well, this is not typical. This particular contract, our original contract, was written on that type of model. But the Chieflin Middle High School project is done in phases, and it's done, so phase 1, phase 2, and then phase 3. And Parish McCall, along with some of their subcontractors, have asked us to amend the original contract to reflect this particular way of doing business and this model. So we've already brought to the board a request, a policy change to change the retainage from 10% to 5%, which follows the state statute change, and we've already done that. And now what Parish McCall has asked us to do is to change the contract so that the retainage from phase 1 is released after phase 1 is complete and we have taken ownership and we have occupied the business, the building. And then we'll do the same thing for phase 2, and then the same thing at the end of the project. You know, retainage is that little bit of money that we keep to make sure we're happy. And we are happy with phase 1. And so I see no reason to keep the entire amount until the very end when phase 1 is occupied at the current time. So that's basically what that is. And then the second page is the amount that we're talking about and the paperwork and the figures that go along with it.
How does that affect our cash flow?
Well, because of the access to the 24 million for the remainder, it should not be issued once that money starts.
Right. I mean, they're going to get it sooner or later, but we have the money, the ability to draw on the money right now for phase 1 and 2 and 3, really, because they give it to us all at once. They changed the way they were giving it to us.
We haven't received year 2 and 3 yet, so that's come shortly. So we're in the process.
We have spent all of phase 1 drawdown and included a little over $2 million of our LCI funding that we have to pay back. So we've used that, and we're hoping to be able to start drawing down phase 2 by the end of this month. They're trying to fast track it for us.
Another difference between this and Williston Middle High School is we have some subcontractors that their work was completed in phase 1, and so it would be we'd be holding money on them for another 2 years. So
in particular, those site prep, like Osteen Brothers, those site prep, that's primarily their job is done at this point.
Right. So then do you be individual?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you. And then the second thing I have are a couple of MOUs. As you know, September 1st, we did have some negotiations with the union, and there were some things that we discussed. And one of those was as you know, the governor came up with a plan. Well, let's talk about COVID, I guess, first. Put my glasses on when I see what I'm doing. So COVID, we talked about some additional days. The LCA wanted some additional days for COVID occurrences, for leave, some additional COVID leave days. And they asked, I think, for 10, and so we back and forth, but we ended up on 6 days, and they did accept the 6 days. And I do want to point out too, that last paragraph there that basically states the school board employees are deemed essential critical infrastructure employees and thus will not be required to quarantine if they're in close contact with someone on campus that is tested positive for COVID-19, as long as they do not have symptoms. So that's also an important part of this MOU I feel.
Any questions? Accept the motion on this first one.
Make a motion to accept the COVID-19 paid leave.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions on the first one? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion. Let's move on to the second.
Okay, the second one, the governor had created this disaster relief reward for principals and classroom teachers, and it was $1,000. And really, as we know, there's so many other people within our school system that do a lot of work. They're putting their lives on the line every day with COVID, just like everyone else. And so we didn't really feel like it was fair to reward just a certain group of individuals and not everyone else. And so our proposal was to offer that $1,000 bonus, the same as the governor had put out there for everyone else who were currently who were employed at the time of or were employed last year and are still employed currently, basically. So someone who was here last year who's left us, they're not included in this. Just those that were here last year and they're still with us will get the same bonus as the governor. Now, this is contingent upon approval through the ARP funding. So that's where the funding will come from, is from that. So any questions on that?
What's that time frame on the ARP funding? Do we have?
We do not have one yet.
Okay.
I wish.
Every time we've asked DOE and the state, so they have kind of pushed back that they're still focusing on ESSER 2. So, because ESSER 2 just went to RFP 1st of August. I think August 10th was when the RFP was due for that. So, but we're different people are going to handle that for DOE that didn't handle ESSER 2. So we're hoping that's going to help with the process, speed things up.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion on the second?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Lott.
Can I interject some extra information?
Sure.
Okay. At the last board meeting, you approved the first 3 MOUs that we have bargained for. Tonight, you have approved 4 and 5. Wanted to let you know that we did hold our ratification voting yesterday. All 5 MOUs have been ratified. So with board approval today, all 5 of those will go into effect immediately.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Has everyone had a chance to read over the minutes from the August 24th meeting? Are there any changes to the minutes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Now we'll move on to our consent agenda. We'll start from Ms. Boyle. Do you have any questions, ma'am?
No, sir. I've spoken to Mr. Howard and all my questions have been answered.
Thank you. Mrs. Brooker?
I do not. Thank you for asking.
Mr. Etheridge?
Sir.
Ms. Clemency? We're going to make it unanimous. Seeing as there are no questions, I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Superintendent, do you have wise words for the group?
Just a few things just to catch you up. I know each of you received your gala invite, so that will be Saturday, October 23rd. So just putting that on your calendar. Appreciate the foundation, what they do for our students and our staff. And so we're working with them on that. Next is our legislative delegation meeting will be October 5th. It will be at 9:30 a.m. at the Williston City Hall. So just wanted to kind of share with you all those 2 dates, and then also talk to you, seeing at the next board meeting to put our legislative agenda items. Last year was obviously to continue the special facility funding for the new Chieflin Middle High School. And then it was the reduction of our district participation relating to the local discretionary capital improvement millage rate, and to restore our digital classroom technology allocation. So if you remember going back about 8 years ago when they started the digital technology, it started out at 500,000. And then about 4 years ago, it dropped to 250. And then 2 years ago, they tried to cut it away totally. And then obviously COVID hit. And so luckily, through Chris Doolin and some other people getting to Governor DeSantis, they were able to restore it to $100,000. They were able to find $8 million in the budget to keep. So each district got at least $100,000 minimum. So those were the three things that we had last year. Obviously know that we're still in special facility, but we, fingers crossed, within the next month are going to have our ability to draw down on year 2 and 3 funds. But would like you to, at your consideration, to keep considering number 2, which is the reduction of our participation back, which would help give us some breathing room on our local capital outlay money to be able to continue our construction and maintenance and renovation projects. And then I would encourage you to consider that digital technology money also, seeing in the day and age of what we're in, just trying to continue to work on pushing that back up to allow us to help us. So, but I'm open to whatever may be topics that you would like to see on our legislative platform. We've kind of tried to limit it to 3, just because we know sometimes as you have short meetings and you have only 10 to 15 minutes in a meeting, so to try and be succinct and right to the point on being able to share what the top 3 things are there. So, but I would like that to be an agenda item for the next board meeting, but just wanted to share with that. And I know Ms. Boyle is going to FSBA in the next couple of days to work on their legislative platform. So she'll have a bird's eye view to kind of bring back some information. So I want to put that out there for you all, so to see and kind of get some feedback in what you would like as your legislative platform. And then the last thing is I just want to talk about is it kind of goes hand in hand with that digital technology money. We're kind of in a pattern right now where we had some devices that were at the end of life or close to being at the end of life. And the federal government opened up the Emergency Connectivity Fund, ECF is what it's called. It was about $7.1 billion. And it's a project that Morgan worked extremely hard. It involved us going through and looking at how many Chromebooks we had, how many were being decommissioned, how many staff laptops were on the end of life, those type of things, Khajiits, hotspots for our students that go into quarantine. So he did an excellent job and really worked hard and worked with our NEFEC consortium and kind of helped lay down a plan for this. So we're in the process of trying to acquire 1,888 Chromebooks, and that would help repair and kind of replace some that we've decommissioned, because what happened is there were some that probably had another couple months left, but the apps on them and also the spyware and malware was starting to be able to be where it would open ourselves up to a digital attack. And we know that there's been several districts, I think Morgan could speak to one close to us that was basically hacked and their information was held by ransom. And he just came back from he and Kaylee came back from a cyber forum that NEFEC put on, and we anticipate seeing a ramped up more activity for cyber warfare and these ransom attacks. So you'll probably hear from some of your schools, because we decommissioned some Chromebooks because they were going to put us in a bad spot, which made it difficult for some iReady testing and things like that. And so, but I want them to know that the reason that we decommissioned those is because we're applying for this federal funding, and we had to take those out to show that they were not in life to be able to apply and possibly receive these. So, and they were on their last leg of life. So Morgan, anything more to share on that?
No, you covered it well. The conference that you spoke about that we went to was a cybersecurity conference that was hosted by NEFEC. We have insurance coverage for cybersecurity type scenarios through beneath that consortium. Without getting into details of that, what we are hearing is exactly what he said. They're anticipating year-over-year 86% increase in tax in two school districts, and we are the prime size. We have had some neighboring beneath that districts that have been hit by similar types of tax. Essentially what has happened is ransoming and cyber attacking, they've become professionalized. They've become the domain of organized crime, how organized crime makes their money. They have professionals, they have call centers, helplines, legal counsel, paid holidays, and if you're hit, it's a pretty significant event. And paralyzes the district for days to weeks. So, we try to do everything we can to prevent those kinds of things from happening. We're in the process of revising our security plans now in light of some of the information we received at that conference. And maybe sometime in the future we can share some things, perhaps in a closed session. Some of these things are details that we don't want to get out into the public domain about what we try to do to keep our district safe.
You said we're insured through NEFAC.
We are.
So help me understand, what does the insurance do?
In a scenario where you are basically the way a ransomware attack unfolds, and that's just one type of attack, but it's one of the more concerning types. What happens is someone will walk in the morning, they'll turn on their computer, and there will be a message on the computer that says, we have your data. If you want it back, please pay X number of Bitcoin to so-and-so, and then we'll get your data back. And you're kind of forced to do it because they will they'll give you samples of the data that they receive, which may be confidential data from personnel or from our students. And if you don't do it, they will post it to the dark web.
So we're participating in insurance that is paying ransoms.
Well, if you don't, then you're opening yourself up into Delaney, maybe you'll speak with his son, to further legal action by the people, say employees, say students, whose information was taken from us. It is crazy. And
I know.
It's a complex issue, probably. Maybe it's something that we would want to discuss further. There's state law requirements about notification when there has been a data breach, and obligations for organizations that hold data to do things like buy consumer protection services for someone whose data was stolen from your organization. And school districts, local government are definitely a target. So we've got a financial obligation on that side. The paying of ransom is also a complicated question because these are criminals, and there's been examples of criminals not being, no honor among thieves, not following through on their end of the deal and going back and hitting somebody the second time, not really releasing all the data, leaving malware behind after the ransom is paid. So I think what Morgan would probably agree with is that you need to do a case-by-case assessment of the situation. It may be difficult to do a blanket one-size-fits-all rule because we're also talking about malware attacks versus ransomware attacks, and the insurance covers different aspects of that.
And one of the big things that the insurance covers is, were we to be hit, they immediately step in, they provide support from the beginning, and they help us work through those issues of helping to identify what the organization was that did hit the attack. Are they one of those that they go back on their word, or are they one of the ones that
the trustworthy thieves?
Yes.
I mean, really think about the conversation we're having.
Yeah, it's crazy. I completely 100% agree with you. It makes it a very difficult position for the district to be in. And in some cases, the insurance coverage may be sufficient to not have to look at a ransomware payment. In other situations, it may not be. It's just going to depend on what happens.
But I think the programs we participate in and the insurance we have helps us prevent being in the situation in the first place.
Really almost our own.
So to bring it back to understand why it's more important, why we needed to decommission some of these older devices that we're opening us up to.
Yes, sir.
So,
Sorry.
no, sir. No, sir. I totally am in lockstep with you that, with that and then understand that. So, and the fact that it happened really close to us. So, and it's led to some difficulties in transmitting student records and getting student records because in order to protect us, so we shut down communication, allowing communication from that district because of the fear of something coming into our system. So,
I have one question, Chris. How does Impero, is that a concern?
Impero is a system that's used to really more to monitor student activity
Right.
on the web. So it's more geared towards that, the kind of things that look, and it's not to say that that doesn't help in some ways, because, you know, a student could accidentally download something that may not immediately be called. So that additional layer of adult supervision can help prevent some of this kind of things on the front end. The type of things that you look at to really prevent cyber attack are a little bit more behind the scenes than that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd be glad to share.
Yeah.
Probably.
and last two things. So obviously on September 20th, we have a school improvement day, and a lot of work's going into the front end of bringing teachers together. Not to use a pun, so teachers aren't out on an island by themselves. Those that teachers that are subject area where they may be the only person teaching English or the only person teaching high school math, or whatever it may be the case. But we'll be bringing those teachers together, and then teachers also at elementary level or grade level. So Cedar Key will be coming up to work with Bronson Elementary, and Yankeetown will be going to Williston, split between JBE and Williston L. So, and then got something new. We tried doing a Chick-fil-A on the first one. This time we've opened it up and we're going to rotate it around. Even though we'll be in Bronson, the Williston Middle High School FFA is doing chicken and rice dinner. And then the next SIP day, we'll rotate it around to a different school and a different club, or if it's an FFA, whatever it may be. But we're going to open up for those clubs to have an opportunity to fundraise. So, and hopefully our staff, we're trying to keep everybody there so we don't lose them to go to lunch and then not get back in a timely manner so we can start back up. So I think it's twofold that it gives us an opportunity to help our students out. So that'll be coming up on September 20th. So, and I want to say I appreciate Ms. Carson and the LCEA and how smooth things went with our MOUs, and just really appreciate all the help them and their leadership of coming and how well negotiations went. So just appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Let's start with you, Ms.
Okay.
Comment.
I don't have much tonight. Yankeetown's been, knock on wood, doing pretty well in the quarantine department. Small school, so that could go either way. I know we had some staff out last week, but Miss Westfall and the teachers and the other staff are just really doing a good job so far, starting out strong. Progress report September 10th already, which is insane, and open house September 16th. I had a quick question. Have you heard any feedback from the cell phone policy? Principal-wise, everything going pretty smoothly?
It's all been positive. I have not heard anything negative to me. So
good. That's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Etheridge?
Not a lot, in hopes that it'll put this behind us. Congratulations, Chieflin. We don't have to do this one by one. Congratulations. Usually try to bring something pretty positive, but just that hit me just a minute ago, what you're talking about. But I just say pray for our country. And I had never seen as much evil as working across the face of the planet as there is right now. And a lot of people in our community hurt and lost, and pray for those families. That's it.
Very true.
Mrs. Ricketts.
I'm gonna follow up with Ashley's comment and ask Mr. McClellan to just give me some comments on cell phone policy and what's happening at Chieflin.
It'll have an issue. You know, not knowing what to expect. We met with every grade level first day of school and just told them our expectations. There hasn't been a handful of cell phone referrals so far in the 4 weeks that we've had. So, been really smooth. It's went a lot smoother than I anticipated.
Great, that's wonderful, and I like those expectations, and everybody's following through, so that's wonderful, thank you. I do want to follow up on another issue that we started, was it last year, or maybe a year before, I don't know, on the committees that board members were on, and I was on safety, and I know Adam's taken over that. And so, Breezy, can you help me out with, just let me know what's happening with the road at Chieflin Elementary? I mean, we got a lot of comments about the pickup area, and the backup is terrible. It's all the way to the Cedar Key Highway, and people are on the road, and then the edge is bad, and somebody, you know, they're turning their, I mean, I'm getting a lot of complaints and a lot of issues on that. So where are we on that with the road department?
Well, I don't really know where we're at with the road department. I don't know, this was about a year ago. It was October, middle of October, a year ago, when I met with the county team, and we come up with some scenarios. You know, we discussed the bus loop, discussed the track. Best scenario we come up with was making the road inside the fence and separating it. To my recollection, and I discussed that this afternoon, it was a time when a lot of changes were going on here, and I recall, and this could be not correct, but I recall that someone from the district office was going to talk to some of the county commissioners about getting help on the, you know, possibly for materials or labor materials on actual constructing a lime rock roadway. And I got some prices at that time on some fencing to separate that from the school grounds and come in off of Park Avenue and mirror the roadway all the way around and go through the one parking lot, tied to the other parking lot now. I don't know. I really can't recall, but I can do some research from my emails, try to figure out who I was dealing with a year ago, you know, and who was going to do that, and they might not be here anymore. So I don't know if the county has even been, the leaders of the county have been approached with that.
Right. So, I know we all went to that meeting, and I think though it's just kind of been dropped, and it just hasn't, we haven't done anything else in this.
That's kind of what seemed to have happened, and I don't know why, and it may be all on me.
No, I think it's all of us. We need to, you know, follow up on it and see what's.
But I did not take it upon myself to follow up on it, and maybe I should have.
Well, I mean, I don't even know, you know, that it's you or who or what we need to do. I mean, it certainly is a county road problem. It's a school issue. It's a problem with, you know, but it is a serious problem.
I think one of the things that's accelerated the issue is COVID, and there's a lot more people dropping their kid off to school right now. So obviously with you sharing the feedback that you're getting, so I did happen to be there for parent pickup a couple days in the previous weeks, so and witness. So we'll try and problem solve to see. So I know that we do have with our funds with Chieflin Middle High School, so it's going to need to be an economic thing where we're looking. So, and we also know that we're in the process. So I just got from DOE this week our 5-year work plan. So that's getting ready to come to you guys to begin working on that. So we'll be working on that. So I'll get with Breezy. So, and now that it's on my radar, so.
Yeah, and it's Chieflin Elementary, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because that is just really backed up, and the road is terrible there. I mean, and it's just beat out. But you know, and if I can help anyway, I'd be happy to do it and whatever we need to do.
We appreciate it. So I know. So whenever you shared with me, so that there have been some feedback to you, So that we'll take a look at what ways we can do and how we can figure out a solution for the problem.
Okay. And then I had the privilege to go to a SAC meeting at Chieflin Elementary, and just real proud of their progress and what they're doing. And new principal is just, she's on it, and we're very happy about that. And then thank you to Mr. Cowart, who personally went to Williston to pick up the Levy Cup to bring it over to Chieflin. Thank you.
Done with that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cowart. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
I hate it sometimes that I'm part of buying that thing.
That's right. That's all. Thank you.
I just wanted to give a couple quick shout outs to some of the teachers at Cedar Key. Rachel Weatherington, who's doing the aquaculture, she had a little welding exercise for the students, and they did great. I went in and saw their projects that they made the other day. Also, the middle school team did something kind of neat. They sat down and looked at test scores, and they wanted to get in their critical thinking, and they wanted to put that in third period. But Mrs. Boyles also wanted to put a new elective in the curriculum, which basically back in my day was home ec class, and do some life skills that way. So they sat down and they figured who needed some extra help here and there with the 6th and 7th graders, and the ones that were not in the remediation were able to take this course with Mrs. Boyles. So they have literally, the older ones have wired circuits already and did a light bulb. The younger ones are cooking, so that they've made potato soup, they've done jelly, they've done pickles, and they're taking the leftover fruits that are given to the cafeteria, and they're using those and doing something with those in that home ec class. So the kids are enjoying it, and they're going to get into finances too, and it's just a life skill that I think they need, you know, when they get out of school. They need to know how to do a checkbook, they need to know how to cook. So they're having a good time with that. Volleyball's going well. And just what Mr. Etheridge said, community has lost a lot of great people. And I know everyone in here has probably known Oz a long time, a lot longer than me, but I want to say that has touched me deeply. He was a good friend, did a lot for family, and to keep his family in your prayers. And Lori and the kids, I really feel that if we had a lot more men like Oz, men and women with the faith and the heart, that right now our world would be a better place.
Amen.
And I had to share that. So just keep praying for him. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. I have not talked with principals and administrators about the cell phone thing. I've talked with some students and with some teachers about it. And much like everything, it's got some growing pains. It hasn't been perfect. I'm not known to sugarcoat it. It's not been perfect, but it has been better than what I will readily admit I anticipated. But one thing kind of struck me as a good thing, and then I was kind of like, well, isn't that good, to the person who complained about this. At lunch now, kids talk to each other. But I had a teacher complain that they were loud. They sure were quiet back in the old days. And I was like, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
Because I'm the world's worst. I would get on my phone, be out there doing whatever, and you forget to talk to your neighbor. And we were raising I was not necessarily for the telephone ban, you know, new things. I don't like change. But we were raising a generation that forgot how to talk to each other. My sons that just graduated high school, I was fascinated at what dating is now. Dating, you took the girl somewhere, you talked to her, you know, that kind of thing. We just text. That's dating now. So now they're having to talk. But I was taken aback by the person that said, it just gets loud in this cafeteria. Now, they need to do something about that. And it flung me back in time to when I was in elementary school. We had a Bronson we were all in one thing. We had Miss Seashoals. When you were in elementary school, you were constantly put on silent lunch. I don't know if we still have that thing. And at 5 years old, I thought that was the worst thing. And I'm here to tell you at 52, I think that's the worst thing because you have to talk to people. Public school is one of the crucial things is that socialization. And if you miss out on socialization, you don't know how to act. And I think that's part of the education you receive in a public school. I don't know about anybody else, and my wife makes fun of me about this, but when someone comes into my office that's a younger person, within 5 minutes I can tell you if they were public school, charter school, home school, church school, all by what they do and how they socialize and how they're able to, and we won't get into all of that right now, but that socialization is important. And I think that's something that's coming back. And I think that's a little bonus that we won't get a grade on. Nobody's going to say you got an A. Nobody's going to say you got a perfect score on socialization. But I like the fact that 30 years from now, my kid will have a friend that he made sitting at a lunch table talking to instead of looking at Facebook. So I think that's a good thing. I think good things are coming. I'm also in agreement with everybody else. I don't want to tear up, don't want to be sad, but since the last meeting, I've lost 4 or 5 people that I thought the world of. That some were lifelong friends, some were essentially family members. And like my buddy John Meeks told me the other day, I'm tired of losing my friends. So please be praying for all of us, because we're losing some good people. If there's no further business, you always have something else.
I do have one, so I would be remiss. So if you get a chance, just take a look. Right outside this door here has been nice and weeded, and mulch has been put out and in the front. So that ground cover, Miss Claudia, who works in maintenance and cleans here and keeps the grounds close by, has really worked hard to make it nice. Breezy had the guys come and pressure wash, so it's been pressure washed, and I appreciate all the efforts that go to make this look professional, and they've done that at all of our schools. I've seen them everywhere, and I know, when you're spread out like we are, there's a lot of times where things kind of slip through, because then we'll have an emergency and we've got to race to Joyce Bullock to fix an AC unit in the cafeteria, or we've got to race, whatever it may be. I appreciate that, and I appreciate Miss Claudia. So she did. So she let us know it was hot out there. So, but she worked hard. So, and we love Miss Claudia. So I tried to get her to stay 30 minutes because I was going to recognize her at the beginning of the meeting. So, but just wanted you guys to notice that appreciate maintenance. So, and all they do for us. They're going to come back. So those 3 young ladies, since they didn't finish up, so we'll bring them back at another board meeting. That way they can be recognized publicly for their efforts, because they were a part of this also.
Outstanding. Now, if there is no further business, meeting's adjourned.